Why, hello there, my pretty parliament of owls, bipolar or otherwise. Today I wanted to read you something that I wrote. It's based off my life. I'm not gonna tell you any more about it, but here it is. Fits of Remembrance by Jacob Matthew Parnell. Part cloud and part paved roadway. Earlier memories are a remedy of part cloud and part paved roadway. I remember thinking of a man who would run on telephone lines and swing through trees just to keep up with me on long car trips. I also remember building a kingdom in the clouds above me just to watch them dissipate, leaving my kingdom in ruins. The story here begins with church. I was friends with a bully. Rather, he would bully me and I would let him because he was my friend. There were marks on my forearms from when he would snap rubber bands at me just to see if I'd flinch. I'd rather take a rubber band than a sucker punch to the arm. My mom was sick. This is an important fact. It was a fact of my life that my mother was sick and therefore is important to the story taking place in my life. My parents were fierce. My mom was especially fierce. There were other bullies that I was not friends with. These bullies would play mind games with me when I was seeking acceptance. I came home and cried a few days in a row, and the last day that I cried, my mother gave me a gift. She bought this Spider-Man t-shirt for me, knowing that he was the best superhero of them all. She asked me why I didn't fight back. My mind reeled for an answer. God, holiness, forgive thy neighbor. I think eventually I said that I thought her and my dad would be mad or disappointed in me. She told me that it was okay to fight back. If that's what I wanted to do, she would support me. I changed that day. I stopped crying for a long time. There were times later that I wished I would have cried more, but the stoicism had its purpose. The next day, a bully at school would try to pick me up. I don't know what their intentions were, nor would I find out. I punched the guy in the face and held back my tears. A person working the morning breakfast at the school looked at me and yelled something. I just walked away. It felt good to punch somebody. I was within my rights to, as this person had been the leader of the group that had been tormenting me for weeks. I told my mom this later that day, and she seemed proud. She told me that she knew me well enough to trust me to do the right thing. Later that week, I went to a church youth party where I would see the bully that was also my friend. He had invited a few of his friends there, and so I sat with them at the corner of the church's gymnasium. My friend, who was also a bully, seemed to want to act tough in front of his other friends that were also tough. He started talking about my mom. He knew my mom as she was a prominent person in the youth programs. He said a yo mama joke, and I stood up slowly, turned to him, and poured my fruit punch on him. He was seething. I wish I could say that he didn't stuff my favorite jacket in the toilet after that, but he did. We planned the fight. It would be later on the next Sunday. The fight was short, and so will be my telling of it. He punched me in the gut before I could do anything, though I'm not sure I planned on doing anything either. I just didn't want to back down. After that, I ran to the church bathroom and fought back tears once again. I didn't want to fight anyone anymore, but from then on, I would never back down. Getting punched in the gut hurts only for a little while, whereas being bullied hurts for a long time. The next week, one of the guy's friends, the one that I punched in the face, followed me into the bathroom. I think he intended to give me a swirly, but I pushed him into the hand dryers and we never spoke a word. He left after realizing that I would neither fight nor cower. Years later, my friend that punched me apologized and we were friends for the rest of the day. I never saw him again after that. I remember telling a girl about the Cloud Kingdom, and for the rest of the year she referred to me as the boy who came down from the clouds. I never saw her as a romantic interest, though, and in my youth that seemed like enough to stop me from spending my time with her. Eventually, I stopped walking with her on my way home from school. I remember these two kids my age. They were twins. I thought they were so cool. Apparently, they sent in this thing that they did to Zaboomafoo, where they would write their names in chocolate milk, and they aired it on Zaboomafoo. I walked with them for a while after I stopped walking with the first girl. I would always try to trade up in friends back in those days. I was bent on being popular. I had no place in popular society, though, due to not caring about the same things or even the people who were popular. One time I bought all the granola bars from the lunch store and gave them all away. Another time I went from table to table during lunch asking, "Can I sit here?" And when they would say yes, I would sit with them for a few minutes before moving on to the next table. I found a lot of fleeting friends this way. Eventually, I got tired of trying to be friends with so many people. I decided to make my own friend group out of people I was already friends with. I would hang out with them primarily for the rest of my high school career. Eventually, though, I found that I was nominated for Most Likely to Take Over the World in my school awards show. I decided that I was probably not going to win, so instead I looked into giving an award away, as the whole show was put on by the students. I was paired with the girl that I first told about the Cloud Kingdom, and I remember apologizing for not walking home with her anymore. We put it behind us and prepared for the show. I was so anxious that night. I remember standing up there in front of the whole school saying my lines and then leaving the stage. Later, I would watch the tape and revel in how bright red my face was. I remember the first time I said no to drugs. There were these teenagers hanging out near the school. They were a little bit older than me. I walked past them and they caught up to me. They weren't rude or vulgar. They asked me if I wanted to smoke pot with them. I asked why. They said that I looked cool, like I might be a stoner like them. I told them no, and they asked me why. I remember not knowing what to say for a second, then replying, "Because I'm a good kid." They asked me what I meant. Did I mean that I thought they were bad kids because they smoked pot? I said no. I didn't believe that at all. They seemed cool and all, I just didn't want to smoke. They walked with me a little while longer and talked to me about bands they thought I might like. Eventually I got home and I told my mother about the whole thing in a telltale story kind of way. I didn't think she would tell my uncle who's a cop. I didn't want her to. I just wanted to know why we paint people that do drugs in such a bad light. There's a lot of things that my church taught me that conflicted with my moral views. My church told me that LGBT people were going to hell. One of my best friends was a lesbian. I went with her to GSA meetings, Gay Straight Alliance. I was the only straight person there, and it felt like a missing piece, so I kept going. I guess if I were to wrap this all up into a chapter of my life, I would have to put a theme into it. I guess that would be character growth, because really it's just moments of my life. Well, I hope you enjoyed that little reading of the thing I wrote. Let me know if you enjoyed it. If you didn't enjoy it, don't let me know because I'm fragile.